the sacrifices that one has to make as an entrepreneur. And the best way to tell this is through a story. Most of you have heard about the 3 a.m. theory. There are those who believe it's the holy hour, the others who believe it's the devil's hour. I leave that to you. But my story of my 3 a.m. was once I had gone out with my friends out of town. We've had fun. We are going back to the hotel where we are spending. It's about 3 a.m. So I received a call. And when I look at the call, I could tell what the call was all about. Remember, I mentioned to you, I've spent most of my entrepreneurship journey in the cybersecurity business. And as your guess could be right, yes, potential customer had been compromised and they had called, reaching out to us for support. You can imagine now from that, for the better part of the morning and the rest of the day was spent on call. And that's the sacrifices that you have to make as an entrepreneur. I remember the friends that I always could not understand, why is this guy on phone? I mean, we had planned for this trip, you just on phone throughout. And those are the sacrifices that you have to make as an entrepreneur. And it's not just time, it goes beyond. But the root to all this, I think, comes back to why did you choose the journey of entrepreneurship and why be an entrepreneur? And I think the best question for anyone who wants to venture into entrepreneurship is, are you willing to make the sacrifice to be an entrepreneur? Because it doesn't come easy. And I think we glorify the end result, what we see when the entrepreneur or the business has been flourishing, and we forget the sacrifices that were made for that enterprise to be where it is today. So back to our sacrifices. It starts with time. You will spend hours, of course, building your business. As earlier on, I've spoken about you going out to sell the business, the hours that you spend to ensure that your business thrives. And typically, any business would either be started by one founder or with some co-founders, and eventually you build up a team. So when you're starting off, you'll probably be doing majority of the work. You are the CEO, you are the operations, you are in finance, you're in HR, you name it. And that, of course, being one individual means that you have to put in more hours for the business to move on to the next phase. And of course, as you do that, of course, there are sacrifices you have to make. There are family events probably you'll have to miss out. There may be even your kids' event that you'll have to miss out at that early stages. But always remember, figure out a way of trying to cover up for those moments. Because at the end of the day, once the business is doing well or is not doing well, your fallback plan probably is your family and your friends. So always figure out a way of covering up those times lost. Financial sacrifice, that's another big one. And especially you as a founder of the business. You'll find at times you'll have to reinvest from your own pocket as the founder for the business to thrive, with the hope and dream that eventually the business will be able to pay you back. So there are things you'd wish to do as the entrepreneur on a personal level, but you opt to sacrifice those rewards for the business. And those are things that, of course, initially when you're starting, you have to do. There are no shortcuts around these things. As I mentioned in the book by Ben Horowitz, The Hard Things About the Hard Things, this is when it really hits the ground and you really have to deal with it. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll sacrifice both time, finances, and sometimes you may also sacrifice relationship with family and friends. And most people may not understand you as an entrepreneur. In fact, entrepreneurship is misunderstood most of the time, unless by entrepreneurs themselves. People will not understand why you're investing so much into this business, why you're spending so much time trying to build this business, yet maybe there are other better options that you could have taken up instead of focusing on this business that you're running. I think that's one thing that anyone who wants to venture entrepreneurship must appreciate, that there are sacrifices that have to be made. There are no shortcuts around this. And as you make these sacrifices, eventually it will pay off. But as you do that, also remember not to sacrifice too much. Good example, never sacrifice your health. In future episodes, I'll discuss about mental health and what it takes as an entrepreneur to ensure that you maintain your sanity and towards that and also address the aspect of your physical health, because at the end of the day, it makes no sense to have a successful business, but you are not physically healthy or fit to enjoy the benefits of the business that you've set up. So yeah, so those are sacrifices that one has to make. It shouldn't paint a bad image or a bad picture of how entrepreneurship looks like. But the hard reality is that these are things that as an entrepreneur, you'll have to deal with, you'll have to face. And it's paramount for you to know that this is what's ahead on the journey. It's not always a smooth journey. There'll always be ups and downs, and that's part of the journey. And of course, the sacrifices have to be made for the enterprise to be successful. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't promise to have all the answers, but I'll try my level best to answer them according to my experience. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and see you in the next episode.